So in the first 9 verses, we saw how the modes bind the soul, how the soul is eternal, it comes from Krishna and becomes entangled in the material world through the agency of the three modes. And then we saw what is the nature of goodness, what is the nature of passion, and what is the nature of ignorance. Then between verses 10 to 13, we saw how the modes compete with each other. Whatever we saw so far, like in the verses 10 and 11, we saw how the modes compete with one another. And then also we started discussing the distinct symptoms in the body and mind that manifest due to the influence of the particular mode. And today, if time permits, we will also see the consequences of these conditionings by the three modes. So the verse 10 speaks about how the modes compete with each other constantly. At one point, you could be in mode of goodness, and immediately you could be pulled down to another mode later. And we started discussing probably the signs of mode of goodness. Let's quickly run through them and then take to verses 12 and 13. Symptoms of the three modes. And this is also a way we could identify what is the dominant mode that we are currently living in. So the competition among the modes is explained in the verse 10, where they are constantly overpowering each other. When what is the signs or the symptoms of the mode of goodness is that in general, all the senses which are usually gross, which are generally dull, which usually drag us down to the bodily consciousness, or in general, they weigh heavily. However, in the mode of goodness, they actually become illuminated, they become light, and they don't constantly weigh us down. They're not constantly agitated or craving for things. That will be that craving nature of the senses that we have generally, it actually goes away when we conduct our lives in mode of goodness. And that is what is called as the gates being illuminated. And the craving goes down, rather eyes see things for what it is. They don't get attracted to things which are unhealthy for the soul. So they develop more clarity and right perception, and goodness become prominent through this way. When in mode of passion, the senses become very strong than the mind. So they develop strong attachment to the sense objects, and you have to constantly feed them. In the mode of passion, the senses needs constant feeding. They have to be constantly pleased. In some way, they will be agitated because of that. And despite providing it, they will ask for more. So it's a constant effort to please the senses because the senses are demanding it. They push the person around, that one has to helplessly go on, continue to satisfy the desires of the senses. So that is the signs of modes of passion. The signs of the mode of ignorance is that here the senses are dulled down. In mode of goodness, the senses are illuminated. They are very calm. So there is no activity, much activity, just necessary activity, which is helpful for the soul. But in the mode of ignorance, there is similarly no activity, not because of enlightenment or not because of illumination, because of dullness. A person who is down with a hard drug, they have taken some hard drugs like cocaine or something like that, they have become like inactive. Their senses have become like dumbed down. So, in mode of goodness, also, there is lessened activity of the senses, but they are illuminated. In mode of ignorance, too, there is lessened activity. However, they have become dull. So the senses are illuminated in mode of goodness, the senses are restless in mode of passion, and the senses are dull in mode of ignorance. So, because of that dullness, and there is inactivity, inertia, confusion, disregard for purposeful living. So these are some of the things. Of course, we will explore them in detail later. And I'm sure we saw this the last week, that Krishna wants us to see the ropes before we can loosen them. That's the reason that Krishna is just defined the three modes, how they bind us in the previous verses. Now he gives us the observable symptoms. You will see there is some amount of overlap or repetition in this chapter, when we speak about the symptoms and when we speak about the how they bind us, there will be some overlap. However, there is intricacies in them, and the reason Krishna is like emphasizing them and explaining it in from different perspectives is that the more we observe, the more we educate ourselves, we'll be able to observe. The more we observe, we'll be able to diagnose, and we will also be able to do what it requires to get release from that modes. Basically, transcendence with acceptance. For acceptance, you need awareness. So that's what Krishna is trying to help us with, that we become aware the nature of the modes and how they're affecting us, and then we can accept where are we currently, and then with the help of bhakti, we'll be able to transcend their effect. So if we don't know whether we are acting in sattva, rajas, we'll remain unconscious puppets of the nature. We'll assume because I'm practicing bhakti, I am great. So to show the dynamic nature of the modes, how they compete, how they constantly fight for dominance, that is all being explained in the verses, in these verses. So he's trying to help us to see the ropes, to understand how we are being, because these ropes are invisible. So only when we start seeing them, then we'll be able to loosen them eventually. So to help us recognize the modes in real time, so we can develop awareness in order to achieve eventually trance and release from these, and to show the dynamic nature of the modes, how it's not a very, it's not an apparently whatever it looks like, it's not that easy. So we surely discussed the verse 10 probably last week, that how goodness, passion, and ignorance constantly compete, each defeating the other in return. The modes are always battling for dominance. At any given time, one mode is usually prominent. Even our life is like that. We all have a prominent mode that we live in, but we might switch on to other modes depending on the activity. When we are trying to be in a spiritual place or spiritual activity, we may predominantly be in a certain mode. But in general, our mode has a flavor, an overall flavor of life. And Maji says that in this creation, human species are usually predominated by modes of passion. That's how he distinguishes the, what do you call them? That's how he distinguishes the human beings. So they are predominated by modes of passion. So like the apps running in the background, these modes switch dominance without you realizing it. If you ever check your battery usage by the background running apps, which is draining your battery, so you will see this particular application is using this much amount of the battery, this application is using this much amount of battery, and depending on the activity you do, they immediately change. If I'm using Canva, now the Chrome is going to be taking less, Canva is be taking to more. The moment I switch and then I give some activity on Chrome, then Chrome is going to take more than Canva. So there is a limited amount of, like, we have to operate in some modes, and between them there is going to be constant dominance. In the mornings, naturally, in the nature itself, there is a dominance of goodness, whether you like it or not. That's how it is designed. The mornings are, by nature, in the world, in the external environment, goodness is prominent. And in the noon, passion is prominent during the day. At night, ignorance is prominent. We may individually be on a different mode. However, it will be slightly affected by the external circumstances also. You go to a certain place like a temple, we may be passionate, but the temple atmosphere may temporarily pull us up. We may feel very peaceful because the overall atmosphere of that place is, we can feel uplifted in that space. And if a person goes to a party or something where they are like dancing and there's music and people are like eating, drinking, socializing, that predominant mode is passion. So even whatever mode we are in, we can be slightly affected by it. If you're a predominantly goodness passion person, you will go into that and you will feel uncomfortable. You will not feel I belong here. For business reasons, you might have to go to a networking event. However, it will feel little out of the place, but you may manage. But you won't feel very nourished by that whole experience. You'll feel little drained by that experience. What to speak of, you go to a place in darkness, naturally it's going to affect. So we may be predominantly in a mode, but we are all prone to be affected by the external environment, the food we eat, the content we consume, and the lifestyle we live. So based on that, there will be naturally some effect. So modes express themselves in the behavior, eating habits, and the daily dealings and lifestyles. That's how they manifest. Determination and practice can actually strengthen sattva. Prabhupada is writing that how with determination and practice, one can actually develop the culture of sattva, which can eventually, when combined with the process of bhakti, you determination and practice, you develop a lifestyle based on goodness, and then you add the practices of bhakti to it. In that combination, we can quickly elevate to the status of pure goodness, the Vasudev state, where we can actually perceive God. When I mean by perceiving, now also we have some God consciousness. But what I speak about, when I say perceive, what I mean now, too, we have some God consciousness. But in the state of Vasu, we can actually perceive in the sense how I can, in reality, it becomes another level of reality. Pratyaksha, how I can see this pen and use it and interact with it. Similarly, on that level of consciousness, God becomes a perceived reality. For now, slightly a less perceived reality for us. We have some perception, but the full perception is not there currently. That full perception happens in that state. That's why Prabhupada is saying we have to go there, we have to go there, we have to go there, because there is complete perception of God. And the goal basically is to rise beyond all these three modes. Otherwise, we'll constantly be tossed by their competition. And Prabhupada writes, one who's intent on Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. So Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. How do we do that? Is that coming up? Like how to transcend these three modes practically?
It's surely coming up, but Prabhupada never keeps any suspense for us. What is very important, Prabhupada will say, going to a movie with a friend who has already seen the movie. Before every scene, says, this is going to happen. Says, this person is going to shoot. Can you just keep quiet? Like, let me watch the movie. Prabhupada is like that. He's not going to wait for Krishna to say the solution at the end of the chapter. Forget about end of the chapter. At the end of the Gita, whatever conclusion Krishna derives, that he is going to tell you from the first chapter itself. He's going to emphasize that because he is not sure whether we will watch the whole movie and come to the right conclusions. So here also, Prabhupada, in this particular purport, there is no question of leading to Shuddha Sattva, beyond the three modes. That's not the subject matter of this verse. This verse, what does it speak? Goodness, passion, three modes are there. They constantly complete each other. They defeat each other. That's all it says. But Prabhupada is extrapolated. That means you are being tossed. Please understand that then you need to come to mode of goodness by and with the practice of bhakti. That also can happen. But lifestyle, improving all those things, all of that together with the practice of bhakti can lead to Shuddha. So just mode of goodness, a lot of people in this world practice. Like if you interact with I know you interact with a lot of yogis and people who have a very conscious lifestyle, what they eat, how they sleep, what kind of salt bath they take or like oil they apply, what kind of breathing, how they do. So they have very template and their self-care routines. They're very particular. They live very consciously, what kind of food they're eating, what kind of content they're consuming. They're very particular and they do live a different quality of life. They do live a very different quality of life than a person who is in passion or ignorance, for sure. However, when they don't have bhakti in there, we are not just looking for a happy life, we are looking for a meaningful life. That meaning becomes elusive even in the mode of goodness. Okay, now I have a salt bath and I have like a very peaceful state. What do I do with this? After a while, it becomes a natural state. Then naturally, the heart is longing for that deeper love connection with God. And devotees, sometimes we undermine the power of goodness. We are rushing here and there. We are constantly not focusing on improving our lifestyle. We have bhakti, but our bhakti remains very unregulated because of that. So we're not able, our flight is not able to take off. So that's why many times devotees explain that how mode of goodness is like that runway, which facilitates the takeoff easily. In emergency, even on a 8-lane road or a 6-lane road, the flight could take off. That's why they make 8 lanes. That's why they make 6 lanes actually. That a flight could actually take off and take on in a land, take off and land during emergency periods. However, it may not be the most comfortable way to do it often. So when we come to devotional service, because of the effect of devotion, initially we may get through, but eventually the predominant mode in which we conduct our life shows up on our devotional life. It impacts our devotional life. It sabotages our devotional life. So, determined determination and practice in both our sadhana and our lifestyle can be a very powerful thing to rise our consciousness, to experience peace, to experience the space internally, to become more and more conscious of Krishna. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
What I understand is we need to stay in the mode as far as possible, rise towards the mode of goodness, and then stay in touch with the practices of bhakti. And then
Yeah,
that will.
devotees usually take it lightly. I'm a devotee. I chant Hare Krishna. I worship the deities and I do services. So we may undermine the effect of the modes on our consciousness. Thank you, bro. So we probably discuss these things here, how we are not our mood, but rather the mood often decides our moves. So the mood comes from a particular mode we conduct ourselves. So if we control that, then we control the mood and we control the moves. If the modes keep switching, we may think and controlling, why should I be blamed for? And we discussed how we may feel helpless under a certain mode at a certain time. However, we have to see our initial choices have led to this state. Today, I may feel very helpless against my phone, Instagram, or YouTube. I may feel helplessly driven to it, and I spend my time, despite knowing I may waste my time. Initial choices, we have built that habit over a period of time by making small little conscious choices. Those choices have made me helpless today. So I cannot say I'm helpless in the hands of the modes. We have built it over a period of time. So it's going to take time to wrestle back. So that wrestling back, that control will take time. So initially we choose the modes. However, when the modes start choosing us, that's when we say we lose control. And through spiritual practice, gradually we can wrestle back the control. And by developing with determination and practice a goodness lifestyle, we can gradually wrestle that control back. Otherwise, we'll become very helpless. Our life will seem like we don't have control over our life. Our life will spiral down, out of control, and we will just become helpless spectators, lamenting that my life has run down the drain, that I'm not able to keep it together. So we don't want to go to that state. And every now and then you will come across people whose life is completely spiraled out of their control, and how much they actually lament. But at that stage, a quick turnaround would be very hard. It would be very hard to make a quick turnaround in that helpless state. Even when you want to offer help, good advice, it would be very hard to take it. It would be very hard for them to penetrate. So that we need to take care that we don't end up in that place of complete helplessness and life spiraling out of our hands. And we discuss this self-driving car. You cannot blame it on the car, your destination, because even if it is a self-driving car, you chose to sit on the car and ignite it, start the car, then the car actually takes over, right? You put it on a self-drive mode, you feed in your destination, you do all of that, and then the car is taking over. You're not driving it, the car is driving. But you chose to sit inside, choose the destination, and power the car, fuel it, ignite it. So we cannot avoid the responsibility of making our initial choices, which led us to our current position, whether in this life or in the previous lives. We cannot avoid that responsibility. Whatever position we are currently in, we are responsible for that. No one or nothing, even it is Krishna, nobody else is responsible. Not even the modes are responsible. We have chosen them. We have chosen them so much. Now they have started choosing us. So, first taking responsibility, yes. Knowingly, unknowingly, I have developed this mode either in this life or in my past lives through my choices. I am responsible. When you accept that, then you will be empowered to think that because my past choices have led me here, my present choices have the strength to change my current situation. So by acceptance, you become empowered. You wrestle control back. To the extent we blame others, oh, my parents actually were not very clean, that's why I'm clumsy. My school, oh, it's not my friends. We can blame anyone and everyone. But as long as we are in that mode of blaming others or the modes or even ourselves, I'm such a bad person, I'm such a passionate person. We cannot blame others or the modes or things around us or people around us or even our own selves. And we cannot heal in that space. We have to accept responsibility. I'm currently in the mode of ignorance. I am not ignorant. The soul is pure. I am being currently influenced by the mode of ignorance. So I need to wrestle that control back. I am perfectly all right. I have all the strength in the world by nature. I could be completely in the mode of that. Nature of the soul is never taken away. No soul at any point of time can say that there is no way I can come back to mode of pure goodness. We all have that ability all the time. So it's just that releasing us from that mode. So first we accept I have the power. My past choices have led me here, and my current choices can actually release me. I have the power. By realizing that way, we actually take steps. Otherwise, we resign. We don't even have the initiative. We don't take initiative because we are not convinced that I could actually change my life. We are not convinced actually. We may go around saying to others, but in our own hearts, we don't really believe that I could change my life. If I really believed, I would make steps. I would take steps. I won't become disheartened when things overnight. I don't expect things to change overnight. So I will have a, what do you call, an amount of, I will have that level of initiative and self, not getting the right word, I'm forgetting it. We will have that initiative. If we really believe that we can change our lives, somewhere in our hearts, we don't believe. We doubt ourselves. We doubt Krishna. It's okay, but we have to gradually learn to believe ourselves that yes, if I make the right choices, one day I'll be a better person. Today it may not change. What our mind will say is, one day you just gave up YouTube. What has changed? Nothing. You could actually watch a few shots and you can still be happy. You could still be a devotee better. It's okay. Not a problem. And the one thing leads to another thing, and eventually we see how we are spiraling back to our old patterns. And we think, I know, I don't have the strength to actually break out. So why even try? Let me just surrender to the modes. We just actively go and surrender. Yes, Purva?
I wanted to ask you that since our mind is constantly tuned into getting rewards for whatever good work that we do, and then when we want to elevate ourselves on the mode of goodness by just setting like tiny habits during the day, like waking up early, eating good food, but we don't see the results quickly, as you just said. So, how do we motivate ourselves without having this? Like, how do we trick our mind to not go looking for that reward every single time we wake up early or eat good food, but it doesn't like show results immediately?
Thank you. We're all very children like in that. Emotionally, we're all like children. We walk around as big people outside, but internally, we're all like emotionally like little children. And if you think, if I have, say, malaria, God forbid, not, I'm just saying, like, if I say I have like a malaria or something, I'll go to the doctor, he'll diagnose, say, oh boy, it's not just a regular fever, it's malaria. And he'll say, okay, these are the medications, take it. And do you think the first day when I take the first dose, I'll have any difference? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Even after completing a 15-day course, I may not feel better at all. Rather, I would feel so worse because my immune system is weak. I would just feel that lingering tiredness, chronic weakness. I'll feel my system is completely wiped. People may not understand. I may look like a normal person, but just carrying a water jug from this room to that room, I'll feel tired. Just walking out for 5 minutes, I'll be. And sometimes I've seen my family may think, what did you even do to feel tired? You didn't do anything. It's been like 15 days after you completed your last course. And you may go through that for 15, 20 days to rebuild that energy. So similarly, We have built these modes and their effects for millions of lifetimes, very unconsciously, consciously. So it's going to take time. Just if I start waking up today, it won't immediately may or may not. But the problem today is we have been made addicted to feel good effects. Everything should feel good. I buy a toothpaste, I brush, the next day girls are falling for me when I smile. That's how they make these ads. They have brainwashed us to think like that now. I'll apply this. The girl will just dress and spray a perfume, and she'll walk around, and people are looking around, just immediately just turning their heads. That's not how it might work in real life in terms of changing one's consciousness. Things actually take time. So we don't expect just by the first dose. We don't think, oh, it'll be cured in a first day. We'll think, okay, there are 15 days of dosage. I'm going to take it for 15 days even if I'm not feeling anything different. I may again go to a doctor and take another report and see whether I have gotten better or not. But I'll complete a course. So we persist.
But
So
then in that case, we know for sure that there is going to be an end time for me to stop taking those medicines. But this is for a lifetime. There is no limit to.
It's not a lifetime, believe me. It's not a lifetime. If you sincerely practice according to a proper amount of dosage in quantity and quality, if you practice a certain way, it does not have to be a lifetime. You may not perfect overnight, but you will grow enough to have confidence that this is working and I can continue to put my effort. That much I can say for sure.
Okay.
If you put a quantity and quality, you will get to a state where you will start seeing the difference. Personally, you will be able to attest, even if you cannot convince the whole world about it, you can develop personal confidence. This is worthy, and I can continue to put my efforts, and you will be determined and not restless. So that quantity and quality of our personal practice, and also quality of association. We are all in various circumstances. If you're living in France, I hope you have reached safely and settling down well. So if that, yeah, so that particular circumstance going to actually affect according, it is going to have an effect. It may be your immediate circumstance. You may not have the power to change it. However, it will have certain effect. But with your sincerity, you could overcome it.
Okay, thank you. I'll give it a try.
Yeah. We haven't managed to get to verses 12 and 13 even today. I don't know. I spoke last time. I think I spoke something completely different, and today I'm speaking something different. This is my problem. I don't prepare everything. I just prepare what do you call cues, and it depends on what is my mood today. That's what you get. I'm pretty sure whatever I discussed last week sitting in Kishor's house was completely different from what I'm trying to speak today, and it's not my control. It's my modes, I would say. So who's at the wheel right now? So the modes, the choices, and the reactions are often driven by whoever is in charge. So first we choose the modes, then the modes start choosing us. So this is verse 11, which speaks about the effect of mode of goodness. And we already briefly saw what it means to have the bodily gates, the senses being illuminated. Senses are our gates. Do we guard our gates at home? We lock at night. We make sure we have a security system. If you're living in a huge building, you make sure the security protocols are followed. We scan who's coming in, who's going out, and we have a 24-hour security in bigger buildings. We have security measures because the gates are the entry points, and it can actually affect what is happening inside the building, our well-being. Similarly, the soul is living within this city or house. Senses are the gates. So we constantly let the gates. The modern culture is let all the gates wide open. Let anyone come, anything come in. And that's depicted as freedom. My choice. My senses, my choice. Who are you to tell I cannot watch 3 hours of Instagram reels? Who are you to tell me? I choose. I watch whatever I want. I eat whatever I want. I hear whatever I want. I experience whatever, anything I want. So we let the senses completely loose, thinking that's freedom. It's like opening our house, leaving the door wide open from the first door to the last door in the house, and thinking it's my house. Who cares? I have the freedom. However, what comes in is going to affect the quality of your life. So it's wiser to scan at the entrance than rather cry about it later. Why is this person inside and now they're doing this, that? No. So the gates of the bodies, the senses, are very important. How they actually take in, what they take in, affects the moods of the soul. The soul is suffering the effects of the senses, the decisions of the cravings of the senses. The soul is suffering. Our life quality suffers because of the inputs the gates are addicted to. So in sattva, our senses become very illuminated. It's a high alert security system. It scans very strongly. What's good for me, only those things are going to come in. Other things rejected. So it's a very strong system. So it's like the glasses are here. I have used the clean windows analogy. Probably that's what we discussed last time when we spoke. This time I feel the security analogy, the gates, calling them as gates just makes more sense to compare them with the gates of our buildings, how we actually take care of them. So similarly, these are high alert systems where you scan and you take what is helpful. So then they are very clean. They let us see through what is reality, and we start seeing things as they are, and we accordingly, our moods get uplifted. We experience knowledge and happiness. Hare Krishna, Mother.
So here he's talking about a Brahmin, correct? Because in the poem he talks about philosophers, scientists, or poets who are in the mode of goodness, but then they can get trapped there thinking that they're doing really well and material life is good. And then they keep reliving that life. So here he's more talking about a Brahmin with intelligence of bhakti or consciousness.
They may be just in mode of goodness, but they may not have God consciousness. That's when they get trapped by it.
Right. But is this verse right here on the screen talking more about a Brahmin?
Any person could be in mode of goodness, but generally they will develop Brahminical nature. So that is what is called as mode of Brahminical nature. A person becomes cleaner externally, internally, develops knowledge, and that could happen for anybody, even a warrior predominantly could be. But the problem is then they will lose their impetus for action. So that's why what you're saying is true. This person usually is a Brahminical person. Usually, yes. Does it make sense? Did I
say it one more time?
Yes. The person who is predominated by mode of goodness is usually considered a Brahminical person.
So what about these poets and philosophers? What is
when they are not having God consciousness, they are predominated by goodness, maybe, but they may also have a good amount of passion. What are they writing about? If the poet is writing about romance all the time, he's probably in the mode of passion. So it's a general thing that Prabhupada is saying. These people are usually dealing with knowledge, thoughtfulness, and usually they are reclusives. They're deep in their thoughts. So they may be in mode of goodness predominantly, but there is no guarantee. You could find all kinds of poets.
Okay.
Yeah. Writers, all kinds of writers. Horror fiction writer, probably not in the mode of goodness. So writer is a general thing, but there is going to be a huge thing. So when they are predominated by mode of goodness, then the work also will reflect it. They'll be going on walk and parks, and they'll be not so much craving for pumping out a book every 3 months and be in the market and be in the phase. No, they'll just experience life and express it. And it may or may not in their lifetime sometimes become famous even. Many times people become posthumously famous. Their works get recognized posthumously. So there is no guarantee that all those category of people are always in the mode of goodness, predominantly. But none of us in this world can be just exclusively in the mode of goodness. There will be some tinge of passion. Does that sound okay? Okay. So there will be, when you are predominantly in mode of goodness, a real predominance, like we're speaking about 99% or 98%. So there's going to be clarity in all the senses. The senses will become very illuminated. They won't drag you down. They're not dull. They'll be very illuminated and they'll be light. They won't crave. The craving for satisfy me, that yelling from these senses they'll calm down. All the internal and external cleanliness will be facilitated. There will be a happiness in general perception of life. So in Prabhupada writes, in the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position. One can hear things in the right position. and one can taste things in the right position. Because in this world, every person in every mode is experiencing some comfort. That's why they continue in that mode. There is a comfort and passion for a passionate person. There is a comfort in the mode of ignorance for an addict. They may suffer, but there is also some comfort they experience. But it's actually for a person who is living a healthy life, he may look at an addict, and the comfort that an addict feels in just lying down anywhere and being lost, he may feel as a comfort in his own perspective. But from the quality of life, when you objectively compare it with a person who is going to a yoga class and waking up early and doing a jogging and having a smoothie and eating healthy and taking care of the body, the quality of life is surely different from a person who's lying around in the corner of the street, addicted to some hard drug. That person may be oblivious and think, oh, my life is great, I'm in the effect of this drug. But objectively seen, it's a different quality of life. And when in mode of goodness, you will start seeing that. A young person may not understand that the bars and those cultures, how passionate they are. They may be very interested in those things. It may look like, wow, this is, you see, New York City is a city of young people. People come with, like, all the time I interact with new people sometimes, and all the time they tell me, oh, I'm coming from Arizona, I'm coming from Mississippi, I'm coming from like Oklahoma. They feel like, oh, it's a dry place. They don't have the action that happens in New York City. And they say, oh, I'm so happy finally in New York City. This place is so happening and it's vibrant, and there's nothing wrong in that. On that level of consciousness, yes. But when you ask another person, they're like, oh my God, this place is restless. This place is intense. This place is constantly like aggravating. I just need to get out of the city in order to actually feel some peace and breathe some fresh air. So you ask a middle-aged person who's like going to office 5 days a week and working hard, they'll say, oh, I wish I could just get out of this city for a few days. But a young person is like coming in, oh, 7 days, I want to be here, especially in the weekend. I want to be in the city. This is the happening place. So it's different psychological factors driving. So probably the other person is also still in mode of passion, but they have been tired, worn out by that passion. The young people are like the lambs standing in the line to get slaughtered. They don't understand that. Mode of passion is going to slaughter them eventually. They'll have to run away from it. So in the mode of goodness, one can start seeing things rightly. One can see what is true. One can hear and understand what is its true position. I'm trying my best to go to verse 11, beyond verse 11. Seeing the wisdom seeing the world in high definition. That's mode of goodness. You start seeing things crystal clear. It's not a blurred vision. So in the mode of goodness, one becomes cleansed inside and outside. Hopefully on the level of spiritual consciousness too. But without a spiritual practice, it's not possible. People can still have a skewed understanding of the reality. A goodness person can still have bodily consciousness, can still have a skewed opinion of the reality, thinking, I'm just peaceful. So that's all it to life. But the store, as we'll see, even if you live in a penthouse, it's still within the building. Even if you're in the mode of goodness, that's still within the material world. You may have a higher comfort and luxury. That's all. So verse 12, passion shows attachment, restless activity, and unending desires. The senses are constantly dictating it's craving for more. You're constantly being pulled in different directions. That means the passion is taking over. Never satisfied. Senses are never satisfied. In a matter of few hours, they're going to come back to launch their attack. So the to-do list never ends. What to eat, what to see, where to go, what to smell, what to sense. It just constantly, the list never ends. That's why these days, because of that passionate culture, people think, oh, I can just go on a vacation and I'll be a great person. Just roaming around different cities and eating different foods and looking at that alone is not experience. Experience is not just seeing and tasting and hearing. Experience is distilling the lessons that you learn from the road. So travel can give you experience, but cannot give you wisdom. Wisdom is not plain experience. Wisdom is experience with intelligence. So today, people travel all over the world, but never become wise. They only had a plain experience of the senses. So that's why today people are getting tired of traveling. They become tired of life, they go for traveling, and they come back tired of traveling, beaten down, and to life back. And even if they had an amazing experience, it does not amount to expand their consciousness on the spiritual level sometimes. So just work hard and throw your money in the name of happiness and come back to again work hard. So choose your destinations. Sometimes we all have desires. People want to go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower, want to go to Rome and see the Leaning Tower, want to see the gladiators and the Colosseums. And it's a natural desire to go look around. I want to go to the Pantheon, right? What is that in Greece? It's exciting. You go around and see these places. There's nothing wrong in it. It expands your worldview. It expands your understanding. But you usually see the world and experience the world based on the state of consciousness you are. Go to all these places, experience, but know in the back of the heart that these things alone will not fully satisfy you. You have come with certain desires in this life, so you may actually engage in some of those desires, experience and expunge those desires. You may do that to some extent. However, please know that alone is not the final thing. That alone won't make us very happy. We may have certain desires. People die to go to France, and Purva lives in France and hates it. So,
Especially Paris is full of rats. Don't come here. Go anywhere else in France, but not in Paris.
you're not discouraging us. We all want to see the Eiffel Tower. I'm just joking. So I went to London. I'm like, oh, London, these buildings, that thing, this place. And then you come to New York City. I'm like, oh, this is where I live. I don't care. And then now I see hop on, hop off buses. What do they call in here? What are those buses? Hop on buses, right? So when I see those buses, I'm like, yeah, New York City is also a tourist place. These people are looking around these streets of Manhattan with wow. And I'm like, I have nothing that is impressive here in these streets. I'm thinking this is dirty and the traffic is so horrible and the city is filled with homeless people. And I'm just looking at all those things. I live here. It's daily business. And I'm not fascinated by these buildings and then architectures. And this week I was just standing for the India parade with the Rath Yatra, looking around the buildings, and they do have architecture. I'm like, oh, I never looked at these buildings in New York City. They do have some architecture. When I was in Britain, I was constantly thinking, New York does not have any architecture. I'm here, like I'm looking, oh, some of these buildings do have. So when we live here, we become oblivious to those things. So we go to another place and think, oh, this place, that place. People live in London and they come to New York City and they're like, wow, this was so amazing. I don't experience anything like that in London. We go to UK and they say, oh, they have so much magnificent buildings and nature and all of these things. So every place has it. You go to India, because we live in India, we haven't seen most of the places. I was speaking to someone who lived in Mumbai and asked them, have you ever been to the Kailasha, the Ellora caves and the Kailasha temple? Like, no, never thought it's very important. And all their friends who live in the US are all going to Kailasha, taking videos and posting. So it's just like we want change, but just by changing our space alone, we don't change the quality of life. So we don't try to live life where we are 10 months, 11 months of our life in a year. We think experiencing life is only the 1 month of the year when we go somewhere else. So in Rajas, there is constant ambition for bigger, better positions and pleasures and possessions. So those things become the sole focus. And the sense gratification has no end point. People leave completely drained after a point. So there is no end to this. So the grass is definitely greener on the side, unless you go to that side and start living. So not greener on the side. Yes, we understand, but most of the times we need that experience in order to be able to have that conviction. Many times we need that. So when enough is never enough, in mode of passion, there is never a word of as enough. When someone says, I'll make enough money to retire, I'm like, when is that? What is that definition enough? If you won't define today, that definition of enough is going to constantly change. But when you live in a country like where you're being constantly robbed in the name of taxes, you don't have an option. It's not that people want to work until they are 70 or something like that. It's just the system is forcing us. So that's another problem, the internal problem and the external problem. So we endlessly chase, and a system which is designed by such cruel people who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, it endlessly pushes us to chase. Even when you're too tired to chase, they're like, no, if you slow down, I don't have enough people chasing things. Go. Whether you're in your wheelchair or in your walking stick, you have to chase. Go around, continue to chase. So internally, some things pushes us to chase, and externally, the people or in the mode of passion and ignorance, they design systems in such a way. That's why Prabhupada always chastised the leaders, because they can make life hell for living hell for people if they are in the modes of passion and ignorance. A leader who's in the predominantly the mode of passion and ignorance, you get someone like a definition of it as like America is experiencing it. So a leader can actually make it or break it for a country. So the endless chase internally and externally is moved by the modes of our passion or others' passion. Just a little more. It never lets us rest. So ambition without purpose is an endless treadmill. You just constantly keep going. That's it. It's never going to take you anywhere. I'm pretty sure I picked it up from internet. I'm not this wise to sound so wise. I surely picked it up from from internet. I really liked it. Ambition without purpose is an endless treadmill. So the last verse of this section, the ignorance shows us darkness, laziness, madness, and illusion. Tamas actually numbs initiative and clarity. It pushes us into complete whimsical, aimless things which are often harmful to ourselves. So tamas is like a fog. It does not allow us to see through what is reality. Rather, it projects what is unreal as real, what is harmful as helpful, what is helpful as harmful. A person in the mode of ignorance, one who is addicted, thinks this is good for me. He looks at a thing that is making his life a living hell, but he thinks, no, I love this. This is great. And he can see an anonymous program as a pain. No. Anyone who's advising him against his addiction, they think, no. So they see reality, true as false, false as true. Exactly opposite. So no illumination, no direction. There is no light. So there is only darkness. So life becomes inactive. There is capacity. I walk around people, sometimes they are begging. I'm like, you look completely okay. You are more built than me. You have physical strength. You have the capacity to take back physically. You look like you can take back the control of your life, and you'll be able to do some work in this world to make some money, better than just be a person lying around in the corner of a New York street. But life becomes inactive despite having capacity because they have been overpowered. So reality becomes distorted. They are convinced of their conspiracy theories sometimes. They think someone has taken away the control of their lives. However much that is true, there could be conspiracy on a bigger level. People could devise and things that makes our lives very, very helpless. Still, we have a choice. We can, even in that position, we do have a choice. But they would have become very helpless because of their modes. So if I tell them, it'll feel like very hurtful, harsh to tell a person that you still have a choice. But the reality is, yes, they do have. But they may not be in a position to exercise it or to understand what we are saying. So our point is not to hurt them or show them in a bad light, but the reality is they do have a choice, even at this position. They can come back, rebounds, and regain the control of their lives. So although consciousness is going on, life is very dull and inactive in the mode of ignorance. That's a sign. You see, someone's life has become super dull due to addictions. That's because the mode of ignorance is taking over their lives. So feeding the very thing that feeds on us, that is mode of ignorance. To some extent, passion too, but it's completely true to mode of ignorance. We nurture the very things, very patterns that actually feeds on us, that actually takes away our life. Still, we continue to do because we have lost the strength. In this state of mode of ignorance, numbing oneself to reality feels easier to do and a quicker thing to do than actually healing from this whole thing. A journey of healing for this person would take a long time or an effort, serious effort and strength it would take. So that's why people may think, oh, just numbing themselves to reality is much easier than healing. So they continue to spiral down. Life becomes completely out of control. The ignorant chooses escape over effort, sinking deeper into destructive habits. Because healing would take a certain level of energy. They may not have that ability at that point. So we become chained to the comfort of things, which actually makes us completely trapped, blind to the consequences of our choices. We become totally chained to the temporary comfort that we experience, becoming completely oblivious to the consequences that we are suffering day in and day out. Not just us, sometimes the family, our surroundings, our family circles, immediate family, children, husband, wife, they all suffer the effect of one person's choices. But still, we become chained to that mode of ignorance. It blocks our ability to release ourselves. So, wasted life does not always look tragic. It can just look comfortably numb too. That person may be, what's the problem? I'm a gambling addict. What's the problem? I go around, gamble anything, any money that they have that they work and earn. But the family will have the effect of it. The family will be struggling financially. The relationship will be breaking down. But this person will be comfortably numb to all of those things. So a wasted life does not always look very tragic for them, that person themselves. Sometimes a wasted life is also a very comfortable life. They have a lot of luxury, money, but they just no higher goals. So it's a tragic life, but it may not look tragic. It may look like, oh, they have a mansion in that Rhode Island and they have a holiday home in Florida. And it may look like they go for fishing and they go for cruise for 2 months. It may look very comfortable life, but it may be numb to reality. So it's a wasted life. It may not always look tragic. It may not always look like a homeless person lying around in the corners of New York City. It may be a person sitting inside a high-end bar and drinking on a Friday night and walking out completely composed, dressed very, very nicely, like a gentleman or a gentlewoman. And they may just walk around that way. You may feel like, wow, they're enjoying their lives, but it's a completely wasted life without God consciousness. It may not look always tragic. It could look comfortable too. Some of the world is selling us that life needs to look very this way. They don't show us life has to be meaningful. They show us how the life needs to look comfortable. A meaningful may not always be a comfortable life. So identifying the dominant mode for our own good, because that's why Krishna is explaining this, the shifting algorithms, it constantly changes. So the complete mode of goodness, the effect when it is predominant mode of goodness is like a full bright mode. Have you ever seen, you have a screen, when someone hands their phone down, you're like, why is this so dark? Increase the screen brightness. I'm not able to see anything. They may have their own reasons, battery, eyesight, and all of those things. But you feel like I can't see anything. I just need a little more brightness. So in mode of goodness, things become more clear. In passion, it's a productivity trap. Your corporate manager may give a seminar to increase your productivity. I'm not saying you should tell your manager, oh, you're a passionate guy, don't tell me what to do. No, means that passion is a different reason it's there for. But when that is the predominant mode in all aspects of life, it's like an endless open browser tabs. Overloaded, your browser is struggling to cope with that amount of load. An addiction loop is like ignorance is binge watching. It may feel comfortable, but you may regret later. Yesterday night, I ended up speaking to someone very long. My system kept telling me, you're pushing the limits, you're going to suffer in the morning. And I saw that effect today morning. My health went down, and also I was late for things and my schedule got messed up. It's not that I wasted my time speaking to that person, but there was a point where I could have stopped. Whatever we needed to achieve was achieved. But that's what happens. After a certain point, you're like out of control. You just go on. Some things may look comfortable and necessary, but we are all human beings. We cannot escape the effects of it. So goodness, all the senses are eliminated by knowledge, clarity in seeing, hearing, tasting, thinking. There is inner and outer cleanliness in this state. Passion, there is great attachment, intense fruitive activity, restless endeavor, uncontrollable desires. In ignorance, there is darkness, inertia, negligence, madness. And this is 4.10 or 14.10, not 14.1. Modes compete. Sometimes goodness, passion, and ignorance. I have repeated this much, so much. You already are thinking, Prabhu, enough. It's 10:38. So self-awareness is the first step to self-mastery. We discussed that. And mode shift and recognizing the symptoms can allow us course correction. goodness, though better, isn't still the complete goal, is not the final goal. Passions can drive productivity, but often, if it is the predominant mode, can make us restless and discontent. And ignorance will make us feel completely stuck in feeding destructive cycles. So restlessness is not same as the progress. Today, progress is almost being marketed as restlessness, but there is a two different things they are. And comfort zones are beautiful prisons. We might become comfortable in our own mode, in the mode of goodness or in the passion or even in ignorance. So they could become our own prisons, and when we don't realize that. So thank you. If one wants, he can or she can develop by practice the mode of goodness, and thus defeats the modes of passion and ignorance. If we want, if we are convinced, if we are determined, we'll be able to develop, we'll be able to leave behind things that are not helpful for us. If one is determined, he or she can be blessed by the mode of goodness. If we practice, then the mode of goodness will bless us with those effects. We'll be blessed with the effects of that. And by practicing bhakti, by transcending the mode of goodness, one can be situated in pure goodness. So Prabhupada is again emphasizing that if we are determined and if we develop by practice, with determination and by practice, what is that practice? That's just by going through proper, according to the etiquettes and rules and regulations. If we practice the process of bhakti, it will eventually, undoubtedly, as a byproduct, lead us to a good level, mode of goodness place. And side by side, we will also be transcending it. So we don't need to, of course, we have to endeavor to create a lifestyle, but just by doing the proper practice and the supportive lifestyle through the process of bhakti, we will eventually be situated in the mode of goodness, rather actually quickly. Otherwise, it's very hard, but it can happen very quickly. You see, people start chanting Hare Krishna without any much idea, even if they are addicts, even if they are very passionate people, they can see the effect of mode of goodness much quicker than if they set out to just develop mode of goodness exclusively. So bhakti can actually help us develop the mode of goodness much quicker than if we approach it alone, as in standalone goal. So thank you very much. And I appreciate your time and patience, and hope to see you next week and start from verse 14. So it's already late. I have to go somewhere. So I'm unable to take any thoughts or questions. Forgive me for that. And we'll see you next week. And thank you very much.